Dear students, in this video, we will learn about Merchant of Venice, especially for the students of class 9th and 10th. There are a few allegories which run behind the lines. There are quite a few allusions and references which are made. During the Elizabethan times, when Shakespeare wrote plays, this was understood to be a status symbol. It was a mark of great learning if you refer to some allusions, classical allusions to Greek mythology, also to the biblical allusions. So, in the dialogue where Bassanio speaks to Antonio and he tells him about why does he need 3,000 ducats and who is that lady when he's talking about Portia. He praises her to Antonio and tells him, "Nor is the wide world ignorant of her worth, for the four winds blow in from every coast. Renowned suitors, and her sunny locks hang on her temples like a golden fleece, which makes her seat of Belmont, Colcho's strand, and many Jasons come in quest of her." So, in these lines, precisely, we have certain allegories used. One is renowned suitors, which is referring to Jasons. Who are Jasons? Then, what is golden fleece? And what is Colcho's strand? We'll have to understand these two, three terms and what do they mean, what significance they have, what's the story, what is the allegory. Allegory basically is a story when you try to compare the present story to something which has happened sometime somewhere else in the similar, and you try to bring it closer, compare the two things, bring out the similarities in the situation. So here, when we talk about renowned suitors, this is actually refer to all the Jasons. Who are the Jasons? Now, going back to Greek mythology, we'll have to first understand what's the story of Golden Fleece as well. Then only we'll understand who Jasons are. So just take a look at this. The story takes place in the era before the Trojan War, when Hercules was alive and active in ancient Greece. Jason was a son of Aeson, and he was the rightful heir to the throne of Iolcus. And Medea was the daughter of the king Actus of Colchis, where Golden Fleece resided. Now, as the story goes, Peleus, who was the half brother of Aeson, now Aeson is Jason's father. Aeson was the rightful heir to the throne of Iolcus. But by passing his brother Aeson and locking him in the dungeon of Iolcus, he took over the throne. Now, Peleus, because of his wrongful actions, he received the warning from an oracle that a descendant of Aeson would seek revenge. Aeson, while still in the dungeon, he married and had children. Jason was one of them. Peleus believed that Jason was one of the oracles spoke about who would seek revenge against him. So he commanded Jason to undertake an impossible mission on which he believed and hoped that Jason would be slain. He was very sure it is difficult for anyone to go to Colchos and get the golden fleece. The mission was to bring back the golden fleece from the land of Colchos. Now, what's the story of Golden Fleece? What is all about Golden Fleece? Why is Golden Fleece there in Colchos? There's another story. How did Golden Fleece come there? Now, in this story, The golden fleece was a skin of winged ram, and this was a ram of the god Zeus, on which the children of King Athamas, Phrixus, and Hel were saved. Why were they saved? Because their stepmother convinced her husband, that is Phrixus and Hel's father, that they should be sacrificed. Before this injustice could take place, Zeus intervened and sent the golden ram with the golden fleece, to take away the children somewhere else so that they may be saved. Now, but seeing this injustice, somehow Zeus saved. While they were on their flight, Hel fell from the ram during the flight and she was killed. The ocean where she was said to have been dropped still bears her name today and is very popularly known as Hellespont. But Phrixus continued his journey and he reached Colchis. After he reached there, the ram was sacrificed to Zeus, and the golden fleece was kept at the temple of the god of war, Ares, that is Mars, and also a dragon was put to guard it all the times. The dragon was so large that it could surround a ship with its body. However, Medea, who was the daughter of the king, Actus, she put a spell on the dragon and sent him to sleep so that Jason could get the golden fleece from the tree where it was hanging. Jason retrieved the golden fleece and he reached Iolcus and won back the kingdom. So this is how we realize that Jason could retrieve the golden fleece when he went back to his father, his uncle Peleus, and claimed his kingdom. He could achieve his kingdom back. So here the comparison is in these lines, in these words, as we noted. The comparison is renowned suitors and her son-in-laws. Now, who are the renowned suitors? They are compared to Jason's. Now, all the suitors who are coming to this place, that is Belmont, where Portia is compared to have the golden fleece. Her hair is compared to the golden fleece of the winged ram. Okay, she is acting as the golden fleece. Her hair is acting as a golden fleece, and then she stays in Belmont. And this particular Belmont is compared to Colchos Strand. So there are so many comparisons here. Renowned suitors are compared to Jasons, who are coming from across the world to try their luck out to marry Portia, who's compared to Golden Fleece, Winged Ram. And also the Colchos is compared to Belmont. Jasons are all the renowned suitors. So these are the various comparisons to the classical mythology, to the Greek mythology. Then let us talk about Janus. Now here Janus is, if you see in this dialogue, when Salarino is talking to Antonio, asking him the reason for his sadness, not in love neither, then let us say you are sad because you're not married. And it was as easy for you to laugh and leap and say you are merry because you're not sad. Now, there had been continuous conversation that took place between Salarino and Antonio when they were finding out the reason of Antonio's sadness, but he could not trace him. So he just gave him the reason that you are sad because you're not happy. It is as easy to say that for you to laugh and leap about and say that you are merry because you're not sad. The absence of something is presence of something else. So maybe it's this easy to understand the situation. And then he continues and says, now, by two-headed Janus, nature had framed strange fellows in her time. Now, when he refers to Janus, Janus is again the reference to the Greek mythology. Janus was a Roman god who presided over the beginnings of everything. He was always invoked first in every undertaking. The first month of the year, January, was also called after him. He was the porter of heaven. So, he was regarded on earth as the god of gates and doors. Hence, he is represented with two heads because every door looks both ways, inwards and out. He had two faces, one frowning and the other smiling, to indicate that the nature creates two different types of men with different outlooks on life. So, there are two aspects of everything. The one who goes in comes in, goes out, happiness, sadness, transition. So these are the reason why, even everything when you begin, there's a beginning of some particular era also, or from transition from war to peace also. Janus was worshipped. So he was supposed to be very important and powerful god. In these lines, he means to say that Janus has created strange fellows in our time. All right, so everyone, like this is the picture, you can just take a look at Janus, two faces. Nature had framed strange fellows in our time, and that will evermore peep through their eyes. Some that will evermore peep through their eyes and laugh like parrots at a bagpiper. Anyone, there are people who will just laugh at anything and everything at any given moment. And there are people of such vinegar aspect. There are people who are very sad, who they'll not show their teeth in the way of smile, though nesters swear the jest be laughable. So there are all kinds of people. There are people who will be happy to see even the bagpiper, like parrots, they'll giggle and laugh for anything. And there are people of vinegar aspect, sad people, gloomy people who will not show the teeth, they will not smile, even if Nestor claims that the joke is laughable. Now, who is Nestor? Nestor is uh, he is someone like he's the king of Pylos. He was the oldest and the wisest of the Greek heroes who took part in the Trojan War. His advice was always sought as it was considered to be equal to that of gods. He was famous for his wisdom, his justice, and his knowledge of war. He is now proverbial for wisdom and profound gravity. Salarino, in these lines, suggests that there are some men who are so sour and cross-grained that they would refuse to smile at any joke, even if the joke were so humorous as to cause the grave, sober, and wise Nestor to laugh on hearing it. This is the picture of Nestor, king of Pylos. He was one of the greatest generals. He was famous for his wisdom. This is a picture of Colchos. Now, there is another thing in the dialogue where the comparison is made. Act 3, Scene 2, when there's a comparison between Alcides and Bassanio. When he goes forward, he marches forward to pick up the right cascade. There are some comparisons she makes. She says, if you do love me, you will find me out. Let music sample dot while he doth make his choice. Then if he lose, he makes a swan-like end, fading in music, that the comparison may stand more proper. My eye shall be the stream and watery deathbed. All right. So in these lines, and then she continues to compare Bassanio to Alcides. Now he goes with no less presence, but with much more love. Line number 55, Act 3, Scene, Act 3, Scene 2, line number 55, and she starts comparing. In that dialogue, if you just look at those dialogues, you will understand. She makes the comparison and she says, then young Alcides, when he did redeem the virgin tribute paid by howling Troy to the sea monster. Now, what is Troy? Now, howling Troy, and I stand for sacrifice. The rest aloof are the Dardanian wives. Now, Dardanians, these Dardanians were the residents of Troy. This is probably the map somewhere in Greece, beside the Aegean Sea. The name Aegean reminds us of the Aegean and all those names we normally come across in the Greek mythology. And seen just towards the east, northwest side of Turkey. Here, this is the Troy. This is the place of Troy, where the king of Troy, Lemedon, lived, and his daughter Hesione. His daughter Hesione. Dardanians lived there. Hesione's kings was the king's daughter, and she had to be sacrificed. Why she had to be sacrificed? There's a whole lot of story, and this is how this Dardanians comparison you will understand. You will have to understand this dialogue will be clear only when you understand the reason, the allegory, the Greek mythology which is connecting it. So let's understand this. This is I just put up the picture so that you may understand. Poseidon Poseidon and Apollo were punished by Zeus. And this is Hercules. According to the ancient story, Poseidon and Apollo were ordered to serve Lemedon, the king of Troy, and earn wages from him. Why? Because they had offended Zeus. They did something wrong and they had offended Zeus. This is why they were expelled and they were asked to go to the king of Troy, Poseidon and Apollo. Apollo is a sun god, and Poseidon probably has the power of water. So, according to the ancient story, Poseidon and Apollo were ordered to serve Lemedon, king of Troy, for wages because they had offended Zeus. Now, Lemedon agreed that if Poseidon built the walls of Troy and Apollo tended royal flocks, he would reward them when the work was completed. Lemedon refused to pay as agreed. But when they completed their task, both of them, Apollo tended the royal flocks and Poseidon built the walls of Troy. When both of them had finished their task, Lemedon refused to reward them. So Poseidon flooded his land with a sea and sent a sea monster to ravage his country. The Trojans were compelled by an oracle annually to sacrifice a virgin to the monster to save the ravage which was caused by the sea monster. The oracle announced, he pronounced that there should be a virgin to be sacrificed to the sea monster annually. And on one occasion, the lot fell on Hesione, that is the daughter of King Lemedon himself. Hercules arrived at Troy on his return from his expedition against the Amazons. He had gone on an expedition. Hercules had gone and he returned. Somewhere he had gone for the expedition in Amazon. When he returned, he promised to save Hesione if Lemedon is ready to give him the horse which his father, that is Tros, Lemedon's father, Tros, had received from god Zeus. He then saved her and gave Hesione in marriage to his friend Telamon. The virgin tribute is the maiden. All right, so here the comparison in these lines, she's comparing when she's speaking, when Portia is speaking, she's making the comparison. Alcide is nobody but Hercules. He's going forward to make the choice. It's almost like making the hazard is being made. So he's taking up the task of choosing the right casket. So it's something which is very dangerous task. A little wrong choice will make him lose her forever. So Alcides is Bassanio, that is Hercules, and sacrifice Hesiod here is nobody else but Portia herself, because she feels otherwise she is in a trouble, she is in a dilemma, because she has some affection for Bassanio, of course. So, and all the rest aloof, the Dardanians' wives, all the people who are standing beside her, that is Nerissa, Gratiano, and the servants, everyone else who was standing and looking at this particular hazard being made, are compared to Dardanians, and they are looking at the scene with a tear marked faces, because when this particular sacrifice was to be made, everyone, all the Dardanians' wives started howling and they were screaming. So it was something, because it was a painful situation, because the because of the sacrifice that is made. So this is how the comparison, this is how the Greek mythology ends. So unless we understand this, unless this is related to what lines we understand, it becomes, otherwise it's very easy. I think the dialogues are clear. We'll continue with further more videos. Keep watching. Thank you.